When Power Rangers made their first appearance in 1993, they took the world by storm with their era-defining heroes and villains that led to the shaping of entire generations. In no time, there were Power Rangers TV shows, comic books, video games, toys, and books. With almost 30 seasons and 3 movies, the franchise inspired young children around the globe. But as I often say, no good hero is made without a good villain. And if Power Rangers are what they are, it is the villains who help them. In this video, we will explore the top 49 biggest, baddest, and most ruthless Power Rangers villains. So, without further ado, let's get this party started. Before we go into our explanation, though, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Realize the truth. They could have been gods.
Number 1. Lord Drakkon. Lord Drakkon is clearly one of the most maniacal and menacing villains of the Power Rangers franchise, and yet he's an alternate version of Tommy Oliver, a Black Ranger. Tommy Oliver started off as a Green Ranger, went on to lead the team, and is considered a primary hero of the franchise. But who really is Lord Drakkon? The short answer is that he's the ultimate negative counterpart of Tommy Oliver. The evil Rita Repulsa once enslaved Lord Drakkon, much as she did with Tommy. However, once Tommy got free from Rita's control, he joined the Rangers and served them for good, which was unlike Lord Drakkon, who joined her back and came to believe in her cause. In fact, the two of them conquered the alternate Earth he belonged to, and the Rangers were left defenseless against the combined might of Lord Drakkon and Rita Repulsa. After this, he started a campaign to convert all the Ranger armor into signs of fear and empowered his army. Furthermore, he was so powerful that he killed the White Ranger of his Earth. Many years later, he took the identity of Black Dragon after contacting Rita Repulsa of the Prime Earth. Black Dragon was essentially a Zord that could be controlled remotely. Although the Rangers managed to capture him, he eventually escaped through a portal and is still at large. Number 2. Rita Repulsa. So there have been many different versions of Rita Repulsa throughout the Power Rangers franchise, but in this video we will talk about the Rita Repulsa from the 2017 reboot, in which she was a Power Ranger who betrayed her team for power. This betrayal took place millions of years ago when the dinosaurs were still alive. However, one of her former allies ordered a meteor to be aimed at her, which seemingly killed her and sent her into a deep slumber in the depths of the ocean, until she was discovered by a few boatmen who brought her out of the water. She resumes her mission of obtaining the Zeo Crystal, an object with a potential that gives power over life and death. Additionally, it served as a planet-destroying weapon. The Rita Repulsa in the movie is a fairly homicidal and unhinged woman when compared to her television counterpart. When she killed her colleagues millions of years ago, she did that with immense power and drew pleasure out of killing them. An absolute sadist and malevolent witch, Rita Repulsa was pure evil and pure strength. In the 2017 film, Rita was a former Green Ranger before she turned hostile, and therefore she has all the powers of a Ranger. Furthermore, she created a golden staff with immense magical powers. She could also manipulate certain objects like gold and rocks to create an army of golem-like creatures, or to create a powerful golden monster called Goldar. How she managed to survive such a long time underwater is beyond me. But once she was fished out, she seemed to act a bit feral. This animalistic behavior changed when Rita Repulsa started consuming gold to regenerate her former vigor. Number 3. Lord Zed. Lord Zed controlled Goldar, Rita Repulsa, and the army of the evil space aliens. His past is largely unknown, but I'm certain that his first considerable move was conflicting with Zordon, who became Lord Zed's prime nemesis. He went on to create numerous minions, and Rita Repulsa also joined him as one. Eventually, Lord Zed became a primary nemesis of the Power Rangers and came very close to defeating them for good on more than a few occasions. Interestingly, Lord Zed also appeared in the crossover comic Justice League Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which was published by Boom Studios in 2017. In the comic, Lord Zed sides with Brainiac. As far as his personality is concerned, Lord Zed is an extremely evil and powerful warlord who wants to conquer Earth before destroying it. Clearly one of the strongest of Power Rangers enemies, Lord Zed can easily decimate Dino Fury Rangers. He is extremely durable, and even a hit from the Dino Master Saber seems to have little effect on Lord Zed. The evil warlord can teleport between planets planets and can also throw lightning bolts and growth bombs that have the ability to enlarge the monsters he controls. The most powerful weapon in his arsenal is his Z-Staff, which is a monochrome staff that can fire lightning bolts. These lightning bolts serve quite a few purposes, including the creation of monsters. When he charges his staff by pointing it to the sky, the staff can shoot streams of yellow energy that can presumably kill Dino Fury Rangers. Number 4. Optimus, the Master. The uber-mighty Optimus is a monstrous villain that resembles the elder god Cthulhu from Lovecraftian tales. In the Power Rangers franchise, Optimus rules the underworld with an iron fist. But his greed for power is such that he sends his minions to the surface to help him take it over. He himself has tried several times to escape the underworld and came very close to ruling the surface, but was somehow stopped by brave warriors. He does this by possessing the bodies of people and other beings. For instance, he once possessed Leanbow, but when the leaders of Tenterras freed Leanbow from Optimus's soul, the monster went on to possess Nick Russell. Optimus has at least 3 forms, and the first form resembles an octopus-like monster. The tentacles of this octopus-like demon end with dragon heads. In fact, his body parts, such as his fangs and claws, are often used as weapons by others. The third form looks like a satanic beast with the head of an octopus and has numerous tentacles emerging from various parts of his body. As far as his powers are concerned, Octopus's third and final form is probably the most powerful. In this state, he can possess others to completely control their body and mind, so much so that he can make his victims see the future that Optimus wants. Apart from manipulating the size of his body to enlarge and shrink, Optimus can absorb almost all forms of incoming magic and energy-based assaults. This apex villain can also travel through time and between dimensions and makes himself stronger by exploiting the despair of his enemies. But his most powerful attack is probably the ability to shoot tornadoes of pure red energy.
For the perfect evil robotic imposter.
Thanks.
Number 5. Tenaya 7. Tenaya was a Generation 7 attack bot that was created by Vengix, the megalomaniac computer virus that once took over all of Earth's technology in order to annihilate the planet. Clearly one of Vengix's most powerful creations, Vengix made Tenaya appear as a human, but she was dedicated to death and global destruction. Interestingly enough, she was not entirely artificial. In fact, she was the long-lost sister of Dylan, the RPM Black Ranger, but Vengix cybernetically enhanced her into a cyborg of sorts. Tenaya 7 first infiltrated the Power Rangers team pretending to be a candidate for Green Ranger's mantle. However, the truth was soon uncovered. Dylan learns that she is his sister when he hears her whistling the tune of The Farmer in the Dell, which is also the tune of Dylan's locket. She initially did not believe him, but once she bled, she realized she was a hybrid and not a robot. Later, she helped the Rangers and facilitated the formation of the mighty Ultrazord. Tenaya was blind as a child, but as a hybrid, she had robotic eyes and a detachable hand, which she could replace with another weapon. In the end, she was cured by Dr. K, who had created Vengix. After this, Tenaya defeated Vengix as well. Number 6. Astroneema. Astroneema served as the main antagonist in the 1998 TV series Power Rangers in Space. She goes by various names including Princess of Darkness and Dark Princess of Space, which rightly describes her personality and powers. In the franchise, she is second only to Dark Spectre and the figurehead of the UAE or United Alliance of Evil. That's some political pun right there. Astroneema initially had a rather childish persona full of narcissism, much like Rita Repulsa, but eventually she became serious and stern, especially when Dark Spectre tasked her with not just defeating, but destroying the Rangers. But she wasn't really successful in her mission and came under heavy pressure from Dark Spectre, who feared that the Rangers would rescue Zordon. She briefly fell in love with Jane after he saved her from one of her monstrous minions. She eventually realized that she was Andros' sister and was abducted and brainwashed at a young age. When Dark Spectre ordered her to kill Andros to test her loyalty, she embraced Charon, her former self, and fought for good. But eventually, Darkonda and Dark Spectre recaptured and reprogrammed her to know nothing but evil. Her impregnable computer programming made her increasingly evil and dark, so much so that she barely had an emotion quotient and forgot the ability to feel any and all emotions. Furthermore, her hunger for power was at its peak now, so much so that she could even destroy Dark Spectre. Number 7. Ivan Ooze. Played by Paul Freeman, Ivan Ooze was one of the main villains of the 1995 film Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. His soldiers are quite rightly called the Oozemen, and they are potent enough to destroy the Rangers as well as Tengu warriors, who are winged beings based on Tengu from Japanese mythology. Despite being a purely evil character, Ivan Ooze often shows his charming and funny side, which is quite like the other villains of the franchise. His story began at least 6,000 years ago when Zordon and his warriors imprisoned Ivan Ooze in a huge egg-shaped and purple-colored chamber. Some believe that these young warriors were the precursors of the modern Power Rangers. Eventually, Angel Grove discovers the chamber and Lord Zed frees Ivan Ooze from his 6 millennia-long imprisonment. After explaining how sad he was to miss several disasters like the Black Death, Ivan Ooze attacked and injured Zordon and Alpha 5. The Rangers found themselves in an extremely vulnerable position now that they had lost the ability even to call their Zods. But as fate would have it, Ivan Ooze was defeated after the Rangers gained something called the Great Power, after which Ninja Falcon Megazord struck the monster in the groin and sent him crashing against Ryan's comet in outer space. Ivan Ooze gets his name from the fact that he could liquefy himself to become an ooze that could squeeze through tight spaces like crevices between locked doors. He could also fling the ooze from his body. Naturally, he could shrink his size and shapeshift into almost anything he wanted, which made him a master of disguise. He could also create objects like flutes and snow globes out of nothing. Additionally, Ivan Ooze used his ooze to hypnotize people and could create minions from this very ooze. Needless to say, he was extremely strong and durable. Number 8. Psycho Rangers. After Astonema turned evil again, she became obsessed with overthrowing Dark Spectre and destroying the Power Rangers. In order to achieve this objective, she resorted to creating the Psycho Rangers in the image of the Power Rangers. Astonema's primary intention was the destruction of Dark Spectre, but instead they focused more on the Power Rangers, which often made Astonema call back the Psycho Rangers just when they were about to end the lives of Power Rangers. This obsession eventually leads to sorry ends for Psycho Blue and Psycho Pink. Eventually, the rest of the Psycho Rangers are also killed by the Power Rangers. Having said that, the Psycho Rangers still lived as spirits. In fact, these spirits later regained their physical forms and freed Power Rangers from their data card state so that they could be physically killed. It turned out that the Psycho Rangers were actually more powerful than the Power Rangers, and the good guys resorted to transforming their evil counterparts into data cards. A year later, the data card Psycho Rangers are sent after Galaxy Rangers by Deviot. Eventually, they are defeated, but with help from Space Rangers.
Meet your new body, Master.
Number 9. Vengix Computer Virus. A super sentient computer virus-like entity, the Vengix was created by Dr. K because Vengix was his only means of escape from the Alphabet Soup think tank. Eventually, Vengix gained sentience and started to believe that it was programmed to make the Earth a better place, and apparently the only way to do so was the extinction of humanity. Personally speaking, I believe Vengix had a tiny bit of credibility in its belief. Anyway, Dr. K had failed to keep Vengix under a firewall, and Vengix unleashed its wrath upon the entirety of Earth and took over all pieces of technology except a city called Corinth. With powers such as the ability to create aircrafts and rockets, Vengix began its conquest of Corinth. However, the virus faced several failures and developed physical bodies that Vengix itself could not control and pilot. And yet, the doomed city of Corinth could not be captured because Tenaya 15 sent another virus into the mainframe of Vengix. It seemed that Vengix was destroyed and deleted after a control tower fell on it, but Vengix had survived. As a villain, Vengix was extremely ruthless and sadistic, and its robotic-cum-demonic voice made it seem increasingly menacing. It used its calculative, knowledgeable, and sophisticated nature to act as a purely tyrannical villain that would go to extreme and sadistic lengths to get what it wanted, that is, the death of all humans. Unlike other Power Ranger villains who have a certain comical aspect to them, Vengix was cold-hearted, stern, and pitiless.
Today, I will get my revenge, starting with the Red Ranger.
Number 10. Daishi. According to Daishi, humans only deserve to be erased from the face of the earth, which Daishi wanted to be ruled by beasts and animals. However, poor old Daishi was imprisoned after a group of warriors channeled the spirit of animals. And to ensure that he did not escape his imprisonment, the Paizuk was formed. In contemporary times, the epic villain managed to escape the Paizuk temple after killing Master Mao. He possessed Jarod to erroneously make him believe that he was, in fact, Daishi. After this, he came to his old palace to awaken and control an army of the undead. Much like Optimus feeds on despair, Daishi feeds off fear to grow stronger. So the more the humanity fears him, the stronger and more powerful he gets. He eventually used Jarod's lion spirit to transform into an armored lion. In the end, he assumed the dragon form, but even in his strongest form, he was defeated. Among a string of his powers and abilities, the most potent has to be his lightning breath, which could destroy any enemy it hit. Then there was the Megamouth beams, which were blue-colored beams of pure energy that could be spewed from his 8 dragon heads. Needless to say, he was immensely durable and a sink for incoming attacks.
We'll finish him!
Number 11. Admiral Malkor. Admiral Malkor was a lunar moth-based leader of the War Star Empire. This empire itself served as the main villain in the Megaforce series. As a warrior, he was extremely intelligent and equally powerful. Despite being a minion of pure evil, he was usually honorable and respectful towards his comrades, which is not quite the case with other Power Ranger villains. Even when things did not go his way because of the faults of others, he would rather slash something with his axe that was made in his likeness. Admiral Malkor was the third most powerful enemy that the Mega Rangers ever confronted, second only to Marvo and Vrak. But he was clearly the most powerful warrior of the War Star Empire. Malkor was called an admiral, and it was for all the right reasons. I mean, this guy was a strategic genius who deeply understood war and everything related to it. His moves, such as shockwave punches and lightning blasts, gave him extreme strength, so much so that he was able to defeat Mega Rangers with a single hit. The extent of his powers can only be described by his ability to create and launch miniature planetoids on his enemies. In addition to this, he could also hurl fiery meteors and meteor showers at them. His mental strength was also unequaled. He could destroy buildings and trains simply by strongly focusing on them. Additionally, his wings could fire pink and yellow lasers that were strong enough to vaporize a Megazord's head. The list of Admiral Malkor's powers is much longer. Alas, we only have so much time.
You'll not defeat me. Wolf attack!
Number 12. Korag. Korag the Night Wolf was a wolf-themed warrior who was created by Optimus when the latter harnessed the power of Leanbow. However, Korag later switched sides. The Night Wolf is one of the most potent villains in Mystic Force, and while he tends to be calm and composed, he's actually quite violent and cold-hearted when it comes to crushing his enemies. Having said that, I have to agree that he was an honorable fighter. For instance, he would not attack an enemy that he considers weak. Apart from Optimus, the Master, he'd not be loyal to anyone and often tended to do great things to impress his master. In fact, it was Korag who actually freed Optimus. He is essentially a battle maniac who looks forward to fighting, and it is something that keeps him going. Most obviously, Korag is a wielder of super strength that surpasses the strengths of several Mystic Rangers. In fact, he once held his ground against the Mystic Speedster. Korag's super armor allows him to take several incoming attacks without flinching a muscle. Furthermore, he can teleport, and can also force others to teleport against their will. Not only can he use his magic to open portals and summon monsters, but he can also willfully give his magical ability to others. Very honestly, this guy is suited for a standalone film.
Are you?
Number 13. Master Org. In the Power Rangers universe, all Orgs are formed from pools of toxic waste. Likewise, Master Org, the leader of Orgs, was also created from pools of such. He desired to turn the Earth into a dark planet full of waste, which was the environment best suited for the prosperity of his species. His first battle took place almost 3,000 years ago against the kingdom of Animaria. And although he managed to defeat the ancient kingdom, he was destroyed by Predazord. But unbeknownst to Predazord, a few remains of Master Org survived and washed up in the Amazonian rainforests. In the present day, Dr. Victor Adler and his colleagues Elizabeth and Richard found these remains in the form of seeds. Adler ate the seeds and was transformed into a new Master Org. He became the most powerful antagonist of the Wild Force Rangers. The source of Master Org's power was the incredible dark magic that he used in several ways for offense and defense. Apart from creating dark energy blasts and dark lightning to destroy his enemies, Master Org could also create kaiju-sized orgs to serve as henchmen. But one of his more potent powers is reincarnation. Many of the Power Rangers villains have survived thousands of years in slumber, but not all of them could reincarnate.
Welcome, Ranger.
Number 14. Diabolico. Diabolico was a gargoyle-themed demon who had been terrorizing Earth for thousands of years. He served Queen Bansira until she and her demons, including Diabolico, were imprisoned by the Sorcerer of Sands. In the present times, more precisely 10 years before the events of Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, Diabolico appeared before Captain Mitchell and his children Ryan and Dana. The family had been in a car accident, and while Mitchell had gripped Dana while hanging from a tree, Ryan was holding onto Mitchell's leg but was losing his grip. Diabolico offered to save Ryan, but only if Mitchell agreed to later give up his boy for Diabolo's cause. Mitchell was initially reluctant, but after realizing that he did not have a choice, he agreed with Diabolico's offer, who promised to return after Ryan turned 20. And so he did. Such was the evilness of Diabolico, making use of a father's helplessness to recruit henchmen. But despite his evil nature, he cared for those who served him, and it was this feeling of care which ultimately made him deflect from his mistress, Queen Bansira. In fact, he even helped the Rangers to finally kill Queen Bansira. Furthermore, he somewhat allowed Ryan to become the Titanium Ranger. Diabolico can appear in spirit form and could do so even during his imprisonment. His double-blade staff is skull-themed and is a weapon like no other. Interestingly, he has the ability to completely detach his arm from his body and use it to grab his enemies or launch attacks. But once he becomes a super demon, he becomes extremely difficult to stop. Number 15. Sledge. Despite being a scrap collector and an alien bounty hunter, Sledge served as a major antagonist in the Power Rangers franchise and the arch-enemy of the Dino Charge Rangers. However, in Power Rangers Dino Supercharge, he became a secondary villain. In the Power Rangers Super Ninja, he was the final villain. Clearly, Sledge has been a bad guy and fought against many of the Power Rangers. I guess his multiple appearances are owed to how novel a character he is, at least as far as the franchise is concerned. Sledge is quick to anger, but he is quite intelligent when it comes to leading his crew and concocting elaborate plans, and he keeps his composure even in high-stress situations. One of his super elaborate and long-term plans was to gather energems so that he could rule over the universe. He may seem like a fearless warrior, but in the end, he's a decorated scrap collector and fears powerful beings whom he knows has the potential to defeat him. As far as his powers are concerned, he is comparable to the likes of Lord Arcanon, whom he was able to destroy after possessing the Dark Energem. In shows such as Power Rangers Beast Morphers and Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel, Sledge has been portrayed as a formidable opponent, but he is nothing like the other villains who have appeared previously in this video. Nevertheless, he is capable of teleportation and possesses extraordinary strength and lifespan. And additionally, he can summon an army of Viveks to serve his cause. Number 16. Queen Bansira. Queen Bansira is practically the matriarch of all demons in the Power Ranger franchise. Also, she is the mother of Prince Olympius. Although she was imprisoned along with demons like Diabolico, when he was freed, she was not present with him, which means that she had managed her escape beforehand. She gained a mangled form but eventually turned much ghastlier when she absorbed the life force of Vyapra. Having no regard for her servants, she often used them ruthlessly to further make her plans happen. In fact, she cared little about her own son and left him in the Shadow World. Later, she tried to open a gateway in the Shadow World to let the fallen demons escape from there, and would have succeeded had it not been for Diabolico, who turned on her after she forced him to kill Loki. Number 17. Goldar. In the original series, Goldar was a fully sentient golden monster, but that somehow changed in his latest rendition that appeared in the 2017 film. Therefore, we'll focus on this new version. The film establishes that Goldar has been in existence for hundreds of thousands of years, dating as far back as the Cenozoic period. However, he is destroyed by warriors such as Zordon and Alpha 5. They launch a meteor in Goldar's direction, which kills him and presumably Rita Repulsa as well. However, Rita had survived the impact and later resurrected Goldar. In the film, Goldar is semi-sapient as opposed to its original incarnation in the TV series. He appears to be formed entirely of molten gold and hence is incapable of feeling pain. Having said that, the beast was far from invincible because the complete destruction of its physical self would kill it for good. Goldar was resurrected with the only objective of obtaining the Zeo crystal, but the monster served Rita Repulsa in more ways than one. Number 18. Rancic. Rancic was not the prettiest of people, and as a result of that, he often found himself shunned by society. The result of this mistreatment turned him extremely wrathful, sadistic, and homicidal. No, I am not trying to justify anything he did. Nevertheless, Rancic's ultimate plan and goal was world domination. Interestingly, Rancic shared the same hatred for both robots and humans, seeing them as expendable pawns in his grand scheme. But he went on to develop overwhelming fatherly instincts for a young girl named Nadira, who later became the cause of a change of his heart. Unlike the bulk of Power Ranger villains, Rancic was a typical Machiavellian villain. Among the mutants in the Power Rangers universe, Rancic was the strongest and managed to defeat 5 Rangers in a single battle. In the end, he surrendered to them freely and willfully, which brings the question if he can really be defeated. He was so powerful that he could demorph Rangers with single kicks. Naturally, a man of this much power is supposed to have extraordinary durability. Apart from the ability to emit blasts of pure energy, Rancic can draw several weapons from his body. These weapons are made of bones, and the process was excruciatingly painful for the mutant villain, which tells us that he had an extremely high tolerance for pain. I mean, if somebody pulled my bones out to use them as daggers, I'd drop dead.
BD has stood in my way long enough. It ends now!
Number 19. Emperor Grum. The de jure head of the Trubian Empire and the arch-enemy of Power Rangers SPD, Emperor Grum, is as vicious a force as any. The Trubians are essentially an alien race who wish to command authority over the entire universe. Interestingly, it was later revealed that Emperor Grum actually served Omni, who was the actual head and ruler of the Trubians. Nevertheless, Grum is quite a devious and sycophantic tyrant who excels in scheming and plotting. In the show, his foremost agenda was destroying the Shadow Ranger. As far as his powers and abilities are concerned, Grum was fiercely powerful. Second only to Omni the Magnificent, Grum was the strongest warrior of the Trubian Empire. His staff is capable of firing blasts of pure energy that can defeat the strongest of Rangers, but more importantly, he also has an outstanding brain. Grum excels in telekinesis and telepathy, apart from possessing excellent shape-shifting abilities. Besides his staff, he can also launch attacks from his hands, which can emit indigo lightning beams. And of course, the Jude has super enhanced durability. A notable ability of Grum's staff is that it can change the age of others.
I know exactly what I'm doing this time.
Number 20. The Machine Empire. Machine Empire is self-explanatory and is enough to tell us that the Empire was an alien race of robots. It is unknown how and when they came into existence, but they developed into a powerful race that took over several planets under the command of their leader, King Mondo. In fact, the Machine Empire was feared by great Power Ranger villains such as Zed and Rita Repulsa. Machine Empire also devastated the United Alliance of Evil. After this, their power swelled further, and even Zordon considered them to be an unstoppable force. It was in 1996 that the Machine Empire set its eyes on the Milky Way galaxy. In Power Rangers Zeo, the robotic army annexed our moon to drive Rita Repulsa out. They believed that Earth would be easy to conquer, but the stiff resistance offered by Zeo Power Rangers intrigued them because they had not had a real challenge in several centuries. But the Rangers proved to be more of a challenge than King Mondo had wanted, and in the end, the leaders of the Machine Empire are defeated, which makes the rest of the army give up the hopes of conquering Earth.
Son!
Number 21. Galvanax. In the first season of Power Rangers Ninja Steel, the violent and narcissistic Galvanax served as the main antagonist. The villain was a hateful being who was quick to anger and had a special hatred for children. In fact, he once compared them with cockroaches. Galvanax was primarily all bronze and no brains, and resorted to using force and brute sense on his opponents instead of relying on tactics and plans. And yet, he was often fearful of coming out as a loser in battle, something that would hurt his image and perception. So he would send his minions and henchmen to do his dirty jobs or participate in battles. Although he prefers a fair one-on-one duel with one ranger at a time, he could be fairly treacherous and dishonest. Galvanax could teleport to practically any place he wanted to. Weirdly enough, he could drink and digest molten metal with ease and without suffering any internal damage. In fact, it makes him more powerful. Apart from his lightning vision in the form of red lightning blasts, he can send shockwaves. Among his weirder abilities, one that intrigued me the most was firing teeth-like projectiles at enemies. I mean, who does that? But then his attack, called the Claws of Darkness, could summon pure energy in the shape of ghostly limbs, which could be fired upon his enemies. Furthermore, he could summon various monsters and basher bots. Galvanax's hand-to-hand combat skills are far superior to most Power Rangers villains, and he would have been a fiercer warrior had it not been for the 10-year period where he waited and did not do much about keeping in shape. Number 22. Scorpius and Trakina. 3,000 years before the events of Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, Scorpius attacked the homeworld of Magna Defender and also killed Magna's son, Zika. In his quest to find the ultimate sources of power, Scorpius sent Furio, his general, to retrieve the Quasar Sabers. But Furio's quest inadvertently created the Galaxy Power Rangers. When Scorpius sent his forces to Terra Venture to retrieve the Lights of Orion, Magna Defender slaughtered them, and the Lights of Orion found their way to the Power Rangers, which greatly increased their power. However, Scorpius' daughter, Trakina, often tried to support her father in her quests, but Scorpius cared a lot for her and tried to keep her from harm's way. In fact, he even built her a cocoon that would enhance her powers in addition to making her more insectoid. But Trakina did not want to give up her beauty and ran away. Later, Scorpius attacked the Rangers with the army of swing wingers that he commanded. Despite proving to be a fierce opponent to the Rangers, they grabbed his tentacles, rendering him immobile. And although the insectoid nemesis died, his daughter returned just in time to reconcile with her father and take his place. Before dying, Scorpius gave her a staff made out of one of his own tentacles. Number 23. Mesogog. While experimenting with dinosaur DNA, Dr. Anton Mercer turned into a monstrous megalomaniac who came also to be known as Mesogog. While other villains wanted to rule planets and galaxies, Mesogog wished for simpler things. His sole intention was to send Earth back to the dinosaur age by transforming humanity into reptilian monstrosities. Interestingly, Mercer's Mesogog state was not permanent, and it worked in the same fashion as the dual personalities of Jekyll and Hyde. Mercer and Mesogog were fully aware of the other's personality's presence and started living in tandem. The dinosaur-like villain would hire henchmen like Elsa and Zeltrax, a cyborg warrior. Furthermore, he created the Tyrannodrones, an army of human-dinosaur hybrids. Eventually, Mesogog's grand plan failed when Tommy stole the Dino Gems to form Dino Thunder Power Rangers. Later, Mesogog became an ally of Luthor, who had managed to corrupt the Wind Ninja Power Rangers. The Mesogog was a fairly interesting addition to the long list of Power Ranger villains. The beast was insanely powerful, but rather predictable, and that's what led to its defeat.
Won't be any different.
Number 24. Luthor. Luthor's real name was Kia Watanabe. I wouldn't say he was an exceptional villain, but he was quite different from the other Power Rangers villains, which was why he was a recurring antagonist of the franchise and served as the primary antagonist of Ninja Storm and Thunderstorm, the two-part episode from the show Power Rangers Dino Thunder. He used to be a ninja master, but was later exiled because he tried to steal the samurai amulet to gain more power. After he was exiled for this crime, he lived the rest of his life as a terrorist, evil sorcerer, and the arch-enemy of the Ninja Storm Wind Rangers. His primary goal was to destroy all the ninja academies, which could be a result of his exile. Naturally, he ended up becoming the most feared Dark Ninja Master ever. Due to his past as a ninja, he excelled in hand-to-hand combat and other things like hypnosis and even airwalking. Also, he could unleash pure energy from his hands to push his opponents. He could create force fields to protect himself and those fighting for him. Furthermore, this force field could also electrocute anyone tragic enough to touch it. Number 25. Master Xandred. The deadly Nightlocks are ruled by their overlord, Master Xandred, who is the arch-enemy of the Samurai Rangers. It turns out that he spends most of his time sleeping on a ship that floats on the Sanzu River because of his headache medication. Originally a denizen of the Netherworld, Master Xandred is quick to get angry, especially if his subordinates do or say something he doesn't quite like. For instance, a great penalty is given when they speak out of their turns. Xandred has immense powers and can turn others into zombies, which is what he did when Arachnitor tried to usurp Xandred's throne. Xandred fought many battles with the Rangers and proved to be a foe like no other, but there's only so much that villains can do in TV shows and movies. After nearly defeating the Rangers, he ultimately had to lose because the writers wanted so. The Rangers summoned the Gigazord to fight Master Xandred. In the end, the Samurai Megazord finally lands a fatal blow on Xandred, ending him for good. But just before dying, he claimed that the Nightlocks would return once again to annihilate the world.
Really wanna know when we attack? We attack.
Number 26. Divatox. Divatox was the primary antagonist of Power Rangers Turbo, and the series called her by several apt names such as the Beautiful Queen of Darkness, Dark Queen of Space, or simply the Queen of Evil. She was not as good a queen as she was an intergalactic space pirate who led scores and scores of ruthless cutthroats on missions to conquer parts of the universe. She initially fared through space in Subcraft, a fish-shaped ship, but later piloted the massive Eagle Sword. She proved to be a great cause of worry for the Rangers, but in the end, she was purified when Zordon's energy tube was shattered. Other villains who got similarly purified were Lord Zed and Rita Repulsa. Divatox could teleport through space, but a more potent strength was the ability to fire energy beams from her eyes. Furthermore, her energy beams could change the structure and composition of objects. Interestingly, she had a reptilian tongue and a lizard-like tail. Although it may seem like a minor ability, Divatox was an excellent combatant who could take down several opponents single-handedly and simultaneously.
Free at last! It's about time!
Number 27. The Fearcats. Not much is known about these feline aliens apart from the four known members of the race, namely Cheetar, Meg, Benglo, and Krezar. All the four Fearcats had different sets of powers. For instance, Meg relied upon using brute force, weapons, shockwaves, etc. to defeat the Rangers. On the other hand, the others used abilities that helped them transform into a cyborg form. Much like Meg, Benglo could also send shockwaves to incapacitate their victims. Among the four Fearcats, I suppose Krezar was the most unique and had powers such as teleportation, shape-shifting, illusion creation, size transformation, etc.
Fox drone swarm!
Number 28. Madame Odious. Madame Odious was the primary antagonist of Power Rangers Ninja Steel. Madame Odious came to Earth along with Ripcon and Galvanax to take the Ninja Power Star and the Ninja Nexus Prism, two objects that would allow her to become a supreme entity. But one Dame Romero stopped her by breaking the Ninja Power Star into 6 pieces. However, they did manage to take the Prism along with Dane's son Brody. 10 years later, Odious tells her colleague Galvanax that they could create more Power Stars by making use of the huge depositions of Ninja Steel on Earth. When they come to Earth, Brody manages to escape from the ship along with Mick and Redbot. And in the end, the Rangers secure the Prism. In the end, she betrays her friends for power, but the Rangers manage to defeat her and she goes empty-handed. However, she does return to Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel, in which she reprises her role as a primary antagonist. Madame Odious has 2 forms. Her final form looks unintentionally humorous, but then one cannot really blame her or her creations. Nevertheless, Madame Odious shared the powers of other run-of-the-mill villains. She aged slowly and had immense strength, stamina, and durability. Her other unique abilities were to summon Kudabots. Furthermore, she was a mechanical expert. Number 29. Furious and Moltor. Furious and Moltor were originally human brothers, but both of them transformed into monstrous entities after trying to steal Corona Aurora. As children, Furious and Moltor lived together, but they almost always infuriated one another. It has not been directly established that Furious was the elder brother, but their conversations hint towards pretty much the same. Furious attacked Moltor for the Corona Aurora. The elder brother is a sadist and short-tempered ice warrior who would do just about anything to get what he wants. On the other hand, Moltor is aggressive and doesn't think much before taking an action. When the brothers arrived on Earth, Moltor immediately got into a violent confrontation with the Rangers. While Furious's powers are ice-based, Moltor's powers reside in the fire. He can use lava to monitor people and also communicate with others using lava. Of course, a villain with such firepower will have extraordinary resistance to heat. Furthermore, he can fire lightning beams through his forehead, in addition to other fire-based attacks such as lightning blasts and lighting fireballs. Moltor is so strong that he can practically cause a volcanic eruption.
Step aside, Blubber. Let me show you how it's done.
Number 30. Master Vile. After Rita Repulsa and Zed got married, Master Vile sent a few Tenga warrior eggs as a wrongful wedding gift. That's how vile Master Vile is, even by villainous standards. Like many others in the Power Rangers universe, even Master Vile was after the Zeo Crystal. He sends Blue Globor to do the job and gives him the Orb of Doom, a device that could turn back time so that the Power Rangers could be kidnapped while they were still children. He also has the Ninja Master Ninja captured and uses Ninja's abilities and skills to stop the Power Rangers. Blue Globor easily overpowers the mighty Megazords. But it's not before long that Blue Globor is reverted to his real form by the Power Rangers, which severs Master Vile's connection with Ninja. Later, Ninja escapes and Blue Globor is killed. But this does not deter Master Vile, who enlarges in size to put up a good fight with the Power Rangers. However, in the end, Master Vile has to retreat, but promises that evil would eventually triumph. He was clearly the most powerful villain of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 3 seasons, and a bulk of the credit goes to his various abilities, including but not limited to mass teleportation, storm creation, size alteration, monster creation, and empowerment, and the creation of snakes made entirely out of energy. Number 31. Dark Spectre. Dark Spectre was the Grand Monarch, or the supreme leader of all evil. His power was such that even the strongest of Power Rangers villains feared him. He would force these villains to serve him loyally in an entirely new organization called the United Alliance of Evil. At some point in time, he ordered Darkonda to abduct a child who was to be raised as a supervillain. The child turned out to be Karen, who would later become Astronema. Dark Spectre does not really come to the battlefront unless absolutely necessary and offers help to his subordinates. For instance, he provided Rita Repulsa and Lord Zed with enhanced bodies after they destroyed the Royal House of Gadgetry. This insanely evil villain can best be described by words like sadistic, arrogant, cruel, brutal, and destructive. He was a vicious, power-hungry monster that lived to kill and dominate. Of course, he hated all of humanity and wanted to see humans dead. However, he did put immense faith in Astronema, who he never imagined would betray him. Furthermore, he couldn't realize that Darkonda was also after his throne. I believe being all-powerful doesn't mean being smart and cautious of treachery. Number 32. Hydro Hog. Hydro Hog was also called the Emperor of Dark Waters simply because of the evil things he did. He served as the archenemy of the Alien Rangers and is known to have destroyed multiple worlds. When Arachnofiend died, Lord Zed summoned Hydro Hog, and although he was agitated about being summoned, he pacified after learning that a few Aquitarian Rangers were present on Earth. When he goes into battle, he finds himself heavily outnumbered and yet manages to stand his ground. But when things seem to go south, he plays dead. This is when the Aquitarian Rangers come close, but he launches another attack to drain them of their water. However, he is defeated when the White Ninja Falcon Zord joins the fight. Hydro Hog was a disdainful character whose hatred for the Aquitarian Rangers will remain forever unrivaled. Hydro Hog's power was such that he could transform lush green planets into desolate wastelands by draining them of water. Apart from having powers like fiery breath and enhanced durability, strength, and stamina, he also possessed a dehydrating touch, which means that whatever he touched lost all moisture, no matter the quantity. Number 33. Gasser. This beetle-themed alien was not just a monster, but a criminal monster, recruited by Furio to gas their adventure. Gasser succeeded and Furio had his way. In another event, Gasser fought against the Galaxy Rangers while Gasser's noxious gas was being sucked by Galactobeasts, but little did they know that the action would turn them into stones. Gasser then tried to destruct the petrified yet sentient Zords, but they were revived and transformed into Galactozords. In the end, the Gasser was destroyed by the Galaxy Megazord, and yet he was revived once again by a sorceress from the Lost Galaxy. This arrogant and cunning monster villain did not stop at anything when it came to destroying the Rangers, but he did not succeed. Although arrogant, he was extremely loyal to Furio. As the name explains, Gasser's primary power is the ability to make people go into slumber, which he does by using his sleeping gas head. Furthermore, his gases have a petrifying effect on his victims if they suck the gas instead of inhaling it. Lastly, he can grow in size at will.
Team to beat him. It's a cyber shadow.
Number 34. Ecliptor. The mighty Ecliptor served as the second-in-command to Astronema and was also the father she adopted in that capacity. He also served as her advisor. The merciless villain took delight in battle and destruction, so much so that he was the only member of the United Alliance of Evil who did not wish to rule. Two of his only wishes were the protection of his daughter and the death of her brother Andros. Strangely, Ecliptor often treated Astronema as his queen, in addition to treating her as his daughter. But when Darkonda captured Eclipso, the villain lost all his fatherly instincts and became purely evil. Having said that, he remained fiercely loyal to Astronema and even helped her plot to dethrone Dark Spectre. Ranked highly as a general in the army of Dark Spectre, Ecliptor was one of the strongest warriors ever and possessed near invulnerability. Furthermore, he had immense battle experience and skills. He could even detach his head from his torso, and both parts were capable of functioning independently. His trademark attack, however, was emitting high-intensity beams from his eyes. And of course, he could do all those crazy things with lasers, energy, and lighting that no other villains from the Power Rangers universe could. Lastly, his durability is explained by the fact that he could survive in space.
Just hurry up and make me grow!
I've never turned into 11 before. Here goes.
Number 35. Finster. Finster was the helper of Rita Repulsa, who created several weapons and monsters for her. However, he was captured by Zordon for 10,000 years before being finally released. Finster would create monsters and putties by sculpting them out of clay and practically baking them in a specialized kiln. Apart from this skill, he also had a penchant for alchemy. He's an inventor, and he seems to be somewhat omniscient. But once Lord Zed made his appearance, the monster-making task was undertaken by him. Interestingly, it was Finster that created a love potion which Rita used to get married to Zed. Essentially, Finster was an important figure in Rita's life, often keeping her counsel and helping her in any way which he could. Finster was not a warrior, but without him, Rita's journey would have ended much sooner. Number 36. Rito Rivolto. Rito Rivolto was the brother of Rita Repulsa. However, he lacked the sense and sensibilities of Rita and was often the most maniacal and violent of warriors in every squad. The dude was practically a sink for incoming damage and could survive blows from the likes of Ninja Megazord and Ninja Mega Falcon Zord. When he came from the moon to Earth, he turned into an orange ball of fire due to friction with the atmosphere, but he seemed unhurt. One of his interesting abilities is firing a reddish-black beam that reverses almost all kinds of attacks. As a skilled fighter, Rito can outmatch the likes of Thunder Megazord and White Tiger Zord without any trouble. As far as his arsenal is concerned, he has things like a bone sword, lightning balls, a flamethrower cannon, a Z-staff, and a jetpack.
Who said anything about fighting? We're gonna do this the easy way!
Number 37. Jabberon. Jabberon was a strange, glasses-themed villain who wreaked havoc before being caught and tried by the Halloween Intergalactic Court. She made her initial appearance along with several other members of the group called the Gruesome Grunts and switched bodies with Haley. Jabberon did not have much of a role in the Power Rangers universe, but she was fiery and confident as a villain. On to number 38, Buffalo Lord. This buffalo-themed villain had a couple of horns on either side of his head, much like buffaloes do. In fact, his face is that of a bull and he wears a ring on his nostril and chest. To be honest, he somehow reminds me of one of those Cenobites from the Hellraiser franchise. Anyway, Buffalo Lord wears a red cape for some weird reason. It was Camille who created this beast and was sent to destroy cities, but before he could do that, Power Rangers swiftly defeated him, more specifically the Jungle Pride Megazord. As far as his personality goes, the villain was extremely brutish and hot-tempered, but it was his very nature that got the better of him, and even his above-average intelligence could not help him from getting annihilated.
Rock shot!
Nice try. Back at ya.
Number 39, Brax. Brax was one of the most powerful and useful generals who served Tynamon. While on the Warrior Dome, they all pledged their fealty to Odious. When he first appears before the Rangers, he tries to portray himself as a weak monster who fumbles at the sight of the Rangers, but it is not long before he drops the act and the Rangers have to flee from the spot literally. The next time that they battle, it is the Rangers who overwhelm him because of their superstar blade. However, Brax enlarges himself and fights the Ninja Blaze Megazord and the Ninja Steel Megazord. The fight ends in a stalemate, but Ninja Blaze Megazord ultimately defeats him. Number 40, Scorpina. Scorpina was a henchwoman who served Rita Repulsa. I believe besides Goldar, Scorpina was the most dangerous and ruthless. She was imprisoned on Earth for thousands of years before finally being released. Her primary weapon in her original form was a crescent-shaped sword which could double down as a lethal boomerang. In her monster form, Scorpina gave meaning to her name and became a massive scorpion-like monster. This monster also had a stinger where her ponytail was supposed to be, and instead of a left hand, she had a claw. However, her most vicious form was her ultimate form, in which Scorpina gained immense powers and abilities. In her ultimate form, Scorpina gained immense powers due to her metallic body. Her trademark attack in this form was called the Ground Slam, in which Scorpina would slam both her hands on the ground after bringing them down from over her head. The impact would create a massive shockwave that could knock people down. Needless to say, Scorpina was extremely durable as well in this state. Furthermore, Scorpina seems to have some sort of equilibrium abilities. She doesn't seem to be affected even when the ground shakes vigorously.
Your destiny is now destruction!
Number 41, Deviot. Deviot appeared in Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, in which he served as a secondary villain and the third general of Scorpius. However, he betrayed his masters for his personal gain. Oftentimes, he tried to portray himself as a sophisticated and polite being, but in reality, he was a selfish, psychopathic, and traitorous monster who could not look beyond what he wanted, which was absolute power and authority. Not only was Deviot responsible for the death of Scorpius, but he also attempted to kill Trakina. However, Deviot joined Trakina herself because she could protect him, and that was his way. The cowardly weakling of a monster often joined those who offered him protection. I guess Deviot and Darkonda are quite similar when it comes to being deceptive and treacherous. Both of them struggle to achieve personal gain and glory and are absolute psychopaths. However, Darkonda was clearly braver than Deviot. Deviot had two forms. His second form was called the Kionta spell form, in which he could actually reflect the Ranger attacks. He could also absorb the energy of his victims. Among the more notable abilities would be the tentacles that Deviot released from his body. Furthermore, these tentacles could electrocute other people.
This is for my planet!
Number 42, Emperor Mavro. Emperor Mavro is the leader of the Armada, a stealth-styled emperor of the universe. He is ruthless and tyrannical, and yet he displays some degree of compassion towards his sons, Vrak and Vekar. Both princes constantly struggle to prove themselves to their father, and although Mavro favors the younger son, Vrak, the Armada follows the custom of the firstborn son becoming the heir to his father's title. Nevertheless, Mavro's primary ambition is conquering planets across the universe, but he is far from becoming the emperor of the entire universe. Unfortunately for him, both his sons die, and thereafter he becomes obsessed with avenging them by killing the Power Rangers. Because of his various victories, Mavro seems to be excessively arrogant as a being, and it is this arrogance which later becomes the cause of his doom and downfall. Having said that, he is extremely powerful, so much so that he can dodge attacks even when he is sitting down. He does not get his powers from metamorphosis, which makes his powers permanent instead of conditional. He is also a skilled battle commander, or else he would never have acquired so many planets and logged so many victories.
I'll freeze the entire planet, and then I'll pry the energems from their frozen hands!
Number 43. Ice Age. In the prehistoric period, Ice Age used to be a captive of Sledge. When Sledge returns to Earth, Ice Age also comes in short order, and the Dino Charge Rangers fight him in their first monster battle. In the modern age, he goes after the energems that Sledge has been seeking. In fact, he managed to almost get his hands on the pink energem, but it was stolen from him by Shelby. Ice Age later came with a huge 5X army to attack the city, but the Power Rangers and T-Rex Zord fight back and destroy Ice Age. Ice Age's presence on Earth is seen by others as a sign that Sledge has already returned to Earth or will do so soon. Although destroyed, Ice Age is brought back by Wrench, who uses the Reanimator. But Ice Age is once again defeated by the Dino Charge Purple Ranger, but then he is once again revived. It turns out that Ice Age is among the most revived monsters of the entire franchise. As the name suggests, his powers are mostly ice-based, but he can summon a Vivek's army. Moreover, Ice Age has all the additional powers and abilities that come with being a supervillain of his stature. Number 44. A-Squad Power Rangers. The A-Squad Power Rangers were a group of Rangers who served as the primary defenders of Earth, but they were extremely condescending and arrogant. In their earlier appearances, they were often seen fighting the new threats that came to Earth, but it became evidently clear that they were far from good. They were sent to fight the forces of Emperor Grum, but the connection with them was lost and they were considered MIA. In reality, they had joined Grum's forces in order to stick with the winning side. In fact, Grum had promised to let them rule Earth when he annexed the planet. As far as their powers and abilities are concerned, it is unknown just how powerful they are because they were not explored to a great extent. However, they can morph and have very durable armor that makes them take huge levels of damage. The primary weapon in their arsenal is the large laser blaster, which comes with the label of SPD Enforcer. They can also pilot a Megazord that can change into a drilling vehicle. The A-Squad Power Rangers can take down their good counterparts with relative ease, but when the B-Squad Power Rangers assume SWAT mode, they can defeat the A-Squad. Number 45. Camille. Camille essentially serves Daishi to the best of her capabilities. As a chameleon-themed villain, Camille makes ample use of her camouflage abilities to fight. Furthermore, she has a battle-ready tongue. In her second form, she transforms into a green chameleon monster. In Power Rangers Jungle Fury, she was a secondary villain. Later, Camille became an anti-heroine and started to learn at the Pai Zook Academy. In fact, she became Jared's love interest. Camille's transformed form is called the Phoenix Armor, or the Green Chameleon Warrior. Much like many characters from the franchise, she can teleport and absorb energy. Furthermore, she can boost or enhance the powers of other beings, such as the Rinshi beasts. Additionally, she can fire needles from her mouth, which also houses a prehensile tongue that can stretch out to great lengths to grab and trap targets. As a chameleon-themed being, she is a master of disguise. She can also phase through walls, displaying great intangibility. Lastly, she can even curse her opponents. For instance, she once turned one of her opponents into a humanoid fly.
First.
I don't think so. Fire!
Number 46. Frax. Frax was a human named Dr. Lewis Ferrix, but he could have been from another planet and not from Earth. In his human form, he was a middle-aged man who wore glasses. He was a scientist who tried to cure Ransik of the poison he had gotten from Venomark, a mutant criminal. Despite offering help to Ransik, the latter destroyed Ferrix's lab and left the scientist to die. With no choice, Ferrix grafted his body with robotic body parts and became an unrecognizable cyborg. Henceforth, he assumed the identity of Frax and pledged to destroy Ransik. He later joined Ransik's army with a plan to work his way up so that he could get close enough to Ransik and kill him. Frax's robotic body was mostly golden. He had what looked like a battle skirt and a cape that was cropped in half, which revealed the left side of his body. His robotic face had a permanent smirk of sorts. Frax was clearly one of the smarter villains of the franchise simply because of his origin and upbringing. However, he remained rather underutilized.
By the power of Daishi, inner beasts arise!
And number 47, 5 Fingers of Poison. Camille, the chameleon lady, created the 5 Fingers of Poison in order to serve Daishi and kill the Power Rangers. They were an elite team of Rinchi, and to prove their higher status and rank over the other poisonous animal spirits, they wore sashes. Each of the 5 fingers was a master of poison. Initially, they served Daishi with utmost loyalty, or so it seemed. But one day, the leader of the 5 fingers, Naja, decided to betray and overthrow Daishi and become the leader of the clan. But the plan was thwarted by the Jungle Fury Rangers, Daishi and Camille. Several of the 5 fingers were revived more than once, but they all perished for good after the Beast War. The names of the 5 fingers of poison were Rantipede, Gakko, Stingrella, Toadie, and Naja. Number 48, Elsa. Elsa was a warrior whose sword could project streams of energy. She possessed great martial arts skills, and after serving as a tertiary villain for some time, she became an anti-heroine. She was serving as the principal of the school where Dino Thunder Power Rangers went to school. While disguising herself as Principal Randall, she could spy on the Rangers and keep a track of their movement without the fear of getting caught. But a few months later, her truth came out. Since the beginning, she gave the Rangers an extremely hard time and even tried to defeat Dr. Oliver. She was stationed at the school by Mesogog, but Mesogog grew tired of her constant failures. When Mesogog drained her of her powers and she turned into a normal human once again, which also meant that she forgot all her memories as an evil person and was a good woman once again. She became again the principal of the school, but by this time she was all good. Number 49, Gakko. Gakko was one of the 5 fingers of poison that Camille created to destroy the Jungle Fury Power Rangers. Gakko was a master of surprise and gecko-style attacks and fought Casey in the first battle. He could climb walls, regrow limbs, and perform most other reptilian activities. Furthermore, he could fire energy blasts from his shurikens. Gakko proved himself to be of great use and strength when he simply extended his arm and grabbed the Jungle Pride Megazord. He was also one of the few Power Ranger villains who fed on people's fears to become stronger. Gakko was revived twice, but in the end, he perished like the other 4 fingers of poison. The Power Rangers franchise has a mighty long list of villains of varying powers. I tried my best to make this list as comprehensive and informative as possible. But if you have other thoughts, I would love to read them down below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.